I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Try to adjust this webcam a little bit there. It's in a different setting here. This is still a room very much in progress, so don't judge it just yet. The wall behind me is actually going to need to go back about 3-4 feet actually. You know, we're still doing the renovations, getting the shared home ready for Sound Engraver and I after the wedding. So this will be the new office ultimately, but there'll be some changes made still, and I'm still going to work out the lighting and all of that. So yeah, it's not so bad. I'm okay with it thus far, but got a nice CRTV VCR combo right over here to play. I got my N64 and PS2 hooked up to it, so do a little retro gaming. Actually have a refrigerator right there, my own refrigerator in the office to keep all the Diet Pepsi and pizza. Microwave too, actually. So Sound Engraver can't keep tabs on how poorly I eat at night. But yeah, not so bad. So welcome to the chat there. Don't know how long I'll go on today. Again, it's just this wedding coming up, guys. It's just, I was telling the Sound Engravers, like, I definitely want to stream tonight, and I've got some things I want to say, but it might just be kind of sporadic. Talk a little bit about this, talk a little bit about that, or whatever, you know, and then call it a night, because so much is on my mind right now, you know, just trying to make sure we got all this taken care of and that taken care of, everything for the wedding. So it's 2 weeks. I think I said 2 weeks before, but I have dyscalculia, so I got that wrong. I meant 3 weeks, but I said 2 weeks, but it's 2 weeks from today. So I'm excited. Definitely got a lot to do though. Welcome to the chat. Big Al popped in to say hello before his own stream. Great to see you. Appreciate that. Ghost Planet Max, good to see you. Astro Squirrel, don't know if I've seen you around, Astro Squirrel, so I'm actually able to catch this live. Always look forward to your streams. Awesome. Well, appreciate that. Slav, good to see you. Studio Super, Stress Levels, Darth Enigma, Pie Guy, Spidey Rules, Divinital Cayenne, Final Fantasy, of course, my dear Sound Engraver. So many more here popping around, chatting with each other. Good to see everybody. 199 super chat from Studio Super right out the gate. Have a happy wedding day to you crazy kids. Thank you so much. There is, I appreciate that. Thank you a lot. There is one more stream before the, one more of my live streams before the wedding day. Now, Sound Engraver is going to stream tomorrow, and then I will stream at some point next weekend, probably not Saturday night. It'll probably be Monday again of the next week, not a few days from now, but, you know, next week. Because I'll have Alyssa, my daughter, next Saturday night, so that probably won't work out for a live stream, but I will do one before the wedding, so it'll be that next Monday. So that'll be the one. That'll be the last time you see Single Prof, you know, on stream. But yeah, so Coffee, Private Eye, and Retrospectiva, good. Yeah, Sound Engraver is going to stream tomorrow at 5:45 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so I have on there the thumbnail. I was thinking about this the other day, and this is kind of wrapped into some of the topics that I talk about, at least the big, you know, push or mission of my channel, major topic or theme of my channel. But I thought Captain Marvel, the Shazam Captain Marvel, is a great example of this. And I have there on the thumbnail, if you caught it, a picture of the old Captain Marvel serial, the old Shazam Captain Marvel serial, which is a great old movie serial, probably one of the best they did actually in quality. Really great. And I got a picture of him, hands on his hips, and then there's the picture of the 70s TV series they did. And in both of those incarnations, as was the case in the comics, when Billy Batson says Shazam and becomes Captain Marvel, he's not a child in a man's body. He becomes a man. He becomes a man. He's got the wisdom of Solomon. He has all these attributes, and that was the appeal. That was the appeal to kids back then. That was ultimately the appeal when they were reading Superman. They just didn't, they didn't know the psychology behind it. But let me read a character who can do all these things I wish I could do, so I can kind of feel like, on the one hand, there's the maybe he could be like my father type character, but on the other hand, there's, what if I wish I could do those things, right? I wish I could be a man. And Captain Marvel wasn't written as though he's a little boy in a man's body. That's a relatively recent change they made to the character. And I've got the Jeff Johns when everybody's like, oh, Jeff Johns is amazing on Captain Marvel. No, he's not. That's not Shazam. That's not what he's supposed to be. I was the lone voice in the wilderness saying how the movie was garbage. That's not Shazam. Oh, he's so great. It's so funny. And oh, get over it, Prof. You're just so mad about everything. No, that's not Shazam. That's a man-child. That's a man-child with superpowers. That is not what the character was intended to be. But the fact that we have people who are preferring that type of Captain Marvel, Shazam Captain Marvel, is very telling, because it's not just the case with Captain Marvel. It used to be that children partook of superhero stories so they could fantasize about and learn how to be a man. These stories taught little boys how to be men. They taught them self-control. They taught them values. They taught them, right from wrong. They taught them how to be responsible, to stand up for the weaker, people and so forth. That used to be what these stories were for. And for a very brief transitional time there, even the little boys who grew up listening to these stories or reading to these stories could appreciate, like once they actually became men, they could still go back to these stories and appreciate them and still take some inspiration from them. But very, very shortly, in 80s was when it really started, I think. And it's just full-blown nihilism now. And we've seen it, the idea of we got to deconstruct these heroes, because you had all of these men, so-called quote-unquote men, these people that grew up reading comics. Suddenly they are men. Suddenly, or they're grown up anyway, they're adults anyway, they've got responsibilities. They're being held to a higher standard, and they don't like it. They don't want to be men. They would rather be little boys. So now they want stories, or once they got to a point of their adulthood, they suddenly wanted stories about heroes who actually did do more failing, who actually failed a lot, who actually weren't living up. Let's lower that bar. I don't like looking at that high standard so much now that I actually am an adult and have these responsibilities. Now I want to hear about heroes who screw up all the time. Now I want to hear about heroes who tell me it's okay not to even try to be so great or whatever, Look at what they did to Batman. Batman's another great example. He was aspirational hero. I know he was a pulp hero when he first started, but that was a very brief time of his fermenting and cementing into the public consciousness, and he became an aspirational superhero. And what happened in the 80s? Let's tear him down. Let's muddy him up to the point now where nobody's happy with real Batman, iconic Batman. Everybody wants Punisher Batman. And even when they claim to not want Punisher Batman, well, Robert Pattinson's Batman wasn't, but yes, he was. He's Punisher Batman, and you get to pretend he's not because he learns his lesson in the end. That's dumb. Nobody wants characters to hold them to any aspirational standards anymore, because boys don't want to be men. Or the men, quote unquote, men would rather be boys than men. Manhood is a lost theme in these stories, in our hero stories, and that's not allowing the mythology to do the work that it should be doing. We'd rather hear stories about these Byronic, moody, navel-gazing heroes, because that's what the quote-unquote men reading comic books right now want. That's what they want to do with their lives, and they want stories that tell them it's okay just to do that with your life. They don't want stories about heroes who hold to a higher ideal and actually take responsibility for their actions and take responsibility for those around them and use their powers responsibly and so forth. No, we can't have that. Well, that's not realistic. Suddenly that's not realistic. Garbage. That's ridiculous. That's what heroes are for. That's what this mythology's for. People just don't want to be held to any kind of standard anymore. And it on the one hand, it kind of grates on me when I hear some people. I think I probably agree with them more than not agree with them. But when I hear people try and still talk about comic books, oh, it's a child's medium. I mean, comic books are for kids. Comic books are a kid's medium. I get where they're coming from that, and I do think comics should always be able to be read by kids. But the generation of kids that read comic books is gone from the face of the earth. You give a comic book to a kid these days, they're looking for the on switch. They don't have they're too stupid. They don't have the attention span to sit down and read a book, even a comic book. I know there are exceptions, of course, but comic the days of kids going to the comic shop and collecting their favorite superheroes and getting their comics, those are just gone. You still have some old comic creators or whatnot who still try to pretend that that's a thing still. Unfortunately, I wish it was a thing still. I really do. But those days are just gone. Kids are just their brains are molded and mutated beyond the ability to do that. Superheroes should still be for kids and should still be safe for kids. But yeah, so comic books should still be safe for kids to be read. But now they can still fulfill the function for adults. Those of us who have grown up on these heroes and learned from them, learned how to be, these aspirational heroes, learn, and even the cathartic motivational heroes within their own proper context. Those of us who learn to be, adults, learn to be men from this, we can still draw inspiration from that. Where is it said that, oh, you have to just be reading War and Peace now because you're an adult? Every now and then I'll hear somebody make a really stupid, offhanded comment like, and I don't even blame them so much. It's just sort of cultural thing. I remember Matt Walsh had a video, and he did it. Probably just did it for the algorithm, for clicks or whatever. But it was like his favorite or least favorite superhero movies or whatever. And he starts it out like, I don't watch superheroes because I'm not 11. It's like, well, maybe you don't understand what superheroes are about then and what the mythology is there for. It's not just for kids, but it should always fulfill that function of if a child comes into contact with a superhero story, whether a film, a YouTube, whatever, it should be there to impress upon them the need to hold to higher standards, the values. It should be there to teach them how to be men, ultimately, or women for young girls, for Wonder Woman and great heroine characters we have like that. But they're not doing that anymore. Now they're run by these, neckbeard man babies, 50s, 60s, I don't care how old they are, who just want to see it more realistic. They want to, let's make comics for adults, and again, let's bring down the standard. Let's have key heroes who are morally, guys. The Boys is just, wow, that's a great series. Oh, Prof, have you watched The Boys? Why on earth would I want to ever sully my mind and my psyche with the crap show that is The Boys? I don't care how qualitative its story is. Who cares? Why are you putting that filth in your soul? I mean, I don't care about the artistic merit of it. What statement is it possibly trying to say? It's just the shock value of, let's take these heroes who are supposed to be idols and let's just make them not. When Watchmen first came out and it was sort of doing that, it was doing it for a reason. Like, at least Alan Moore had a comment he was making about it. He had something to say about it. Nowadays, it's just like, oh, The Boys. Is it even shocking anymore? That's just what superheroes do nowadays. That's what the modern day superhero does. This post Zack Snyder era of superhero world. It's really sad. Got a few super chats let me get to. Studio Super said, by the second movie, I saw folks appeal of that interpretation wear thin. Oh, about the Shazam movie. Is it just me? I don't remember Shazam being this damn immature. No, he wasn't. They tried to make him that way in the comics. That was the New 52 Shazam. Suddenly, let's make him a little man-child with superpowers. That's a horror story. I mean, did you not see that episode of Twilight Zone? That's not a superhero. He should still have the heart of a child. A really great Shazam story is the Superman Shazam DC short, which you can find, you can stream for free right now on like Vimeo or whatever. I send my students to it sometimes. We did a rewatch of it on my channel ages ago. It's an adaptation from a story from the comics where Superman meets Billy Batson, and Billy Batson is getting his powers and whatnot. But when he suddenly becomes the man, Captain Marvel, he's not some little kid. He's still got the child's heart and he's still learning, but it's the wisdom of Solomon, for crying out loud. You're not like, wanting to do donuts in a parking lot, or, I bought beer. That's such a stupid movie. I don't know why people were just squealing all over that. Studio Super again. So thank you so much for 999. Said, I remember this quote: principles may not tick a boy into bed or hold him or remind him to brush his teeth. Oh, tuck. I think you mean tuck. Principles may like principles as in like values may not tuck a boy into bed or hold him or remind him to brush his teeth. But what they do is separate the boys from the men. Gotcha. Yeah. Good comment. Good quote. I just had to wrap my head around it for a second there. Studio Super also says, I hate it when folks relegate manhood to trends. You're not a man unless you do this or that. To say that, I say that's transgender talk. Leave that to the lefties. Yeah, well, there's a part of a generational thing. Oh, you're not a man unless you know how to change your oil in the car. Well, I mean, that's not really even a thing. You can't be a man unless you can change your carburetor. Well, cars don't even have carburetors anymore. Most men today, even real men, may not be able to change the oil, but they can probably fix their computer, and stuff like that. So yeah, generational things change, and you'll always have the older generation, trying to stick to some of the just cultural things that change. But certain things that don't change are principles, like you were saying, responsibility, taking care of those less fortunate around you, those in your power that you can take care of and you can serve. Manhood is about service. It's about using your power responsibly to help others. And you learn that from heroes, aspirational like Superman, or even cathartic motivational like Spider-Man, who the point of cathartic motivational heroes, I've been talking a lot about aspirational heroes, but the whole point of a cathartic motivational hero is them learning that they can't keep making that mistake. Spider-Man was such a great example because he makes mistakes, but then learns, I got to be better. I can't keep doing that mistake, And even cathartic motivational heroes now, people are removing the motivational part from them. They just want to see the catharsis. They just want to see heroes be sad, moody, screw up, maybe throw some lip service to like trying to be better or something like that. But no one really wants to see that story. It's ridiculous. Andre Hernandez says, back then, Harry Potter made kids read. Now it's manga that makes kids read. Back then, kids' heroes were Batman and Spider-Man. Now kids' heroes are Luffy and Naruto. Are kids even reading manga, though? I mean, I don't know it. No, I don't, hang around with kids a lot. I teach college age. I have my nieces. They would rather throw up than read a book. My daughter doesn't really, she's not a good example, because she's, cognitively impaired, with the autism and whatnot. But I don't know of any kids. I know of a lot of kids who grew up reading manga in like the aughts, when Naruto was about and stuff like that. But I just don't know a lot of kids even into anime or manga, I don't even know if they have the attention span for that. I'm sure there are some out there. I'm sure there, and you probably know some, Andre, which is why you made the comment, But yeah, I think it's even sadder than that. Yeah. Leia Plus Size says, don't forget Bill Maher's famous rant in every modern director saying, if you liked MCU or DC, you want to be a kid forever. Yeah, they try to paint it like this Peter Pan syndrome. And there is a real danger to the Peter Pan syndrome. Certainly, yeah. And a lot of people, as I've just been describing, just want to be the kid forever. But when they want to be the kid forever, liking this stuff isn't being a kid. Having superheroes all over my office, that's not being a kid. It's there's some nostalgia to it. It's some fond memories of when I was a kid. Sure. That's not kid-like. That's not childlike. Childlike is not growing up in your responsibility. That's where the boy separated from the man is growing up and denying yourself and serving others and taking responsibility. That's the Peter Pan syndrome. So people don't want to think that deeply. So they just want to see somebody with a superhero t-shirt and go, oh, yeah, Peter Pan syndrome or whatever. No, that's not what it's about at all. And that's pretty stupid, actually, to think that. It's just betrays some real shallow thinking. Spidey Rules says, and the biggest problem with Spider-Man comics these days is that they refuse to let him grow up. That's a great example. I'm glad you brought that up, Spidey Rules, because I was going to say something about that. I mean, that's the big, Spider-Man, Peter Parker grew up. We saw his life. We saw him from high school to college. We saw him young adult. We saw him get married to Mary Jane. We got to see, this is in the epic hero, the functions of an epic hero, according to Joseph Campbell. This was the pedagogical function, that we needed to see a hero show us how to respond to all the different stages of life, and we saw Peter Parker do that. It was great. He was married. He had kids. This was so great. What did Dan Slott and the Idiot Crew come in there and do? We got to make him, it wasn't even Dan Slott. It was, who was the guy heading the Marvel? Joe something? I'm blanking on his name. But they didn't want to put up. There's a lot of people involved who bear the blame of that. We want Spider-Man the way we grew up with him. We want the young kid who's facing all the difficulties. We don't like this hero who's showing us how to be a responsible adult. Ew. No, we want the little kid again. We want to remember that hero, which was absurd. I mean, not that you can never write stories about Spider-Man as a young kid anymore. Still, sure, do that. Do another run. But don't do the whole, undoing the marriage and all that nonsense. That was just a garbage. Joe Quesada, that's what I'm thinking about. Thank you, Joe Quesada. Marvel's equivalent to Dan DiDio. Absolutely. Got another super chat or two here I don't want to miss. Studio Super says, started reading comics in middle school. My first comic was The Amazing Spider-Man, I think number 6 or 7, where the lizard was the first introduced. Loved it so much. And that's how I got here. Yeah, I started reading comics in, that's a good story. And I always like hearing people's stories about how they got into comics and stuff like that. And like what was the thing that got them into it. I got into comics. I told the story before. Actually, behind me there, the Batman comic hanging up on the shelf down there, Batman Family. That was the first comic I ever read. It was an old, long box issue, obviously, because it came out in the late 70s, I think. But it was 89, when the Batmania came out. And I was in 4th or 5th grade. And I was actually having trouble reading. They were sending me to summer school because I was really behind on my reading comprehension. And I wanted to read comic books, though. That was something that I really wanted to read. And my teachers were like, yeah, let him read whatever he wants to read. Let him read something. So I couldn't put comic books down, just poured through them and became a voracious reader through comic books. And then obviously moving on to novels to the point where I'm an English professor today, So, comics are good for kids. If they will read them, give it to them by all means. Matthew Flynn says, since we're talking about heroes, how do you write a hero in a grim, dark setting? I mean, we need more information than that, right? I mean, a lot of heroes are in grim, dark settings. And some heroes can be darker if that's their context and their archetype, right? But Batman's a great example. Here's a great example for you, Matthew Flynn. This is my best answer to that question. Batman exists in Gotham City. He exists in darkness. And I've said this about him before, but I don't know if I've said it anywhere recently. And so a lot of people see Batman existing in this Gotham City with its corrupt politicians, its corrupt police force, really horrible supervillains and serial killers and all this around. And they think, well, he's got to be a super dark hero then. He's got to be, we got to fight fire with fire. No. Batman wears the mask of darkness. He dresses up as a bat to try to intimidate these thugs. Criminals are a cowardly and superstitious lot, as he says. But Batgirl summed it up great in the Carl Kessel story that I quote all the time. When Superman first meets Barbara Gordon's Batgirl, and he's helping her with this, subdue this thug or whatever, and he's taking her to meet Batman, I think, or whatever, and he's flying her. He's holding her up, and they're flying because they're late or whatever. And he says, I'm kind of surprised you chose to emulate Batman. He's a little dark, and you're so bubbly and whatnot. And she said, he's not dark at all. He's the light shining in the darkness. He's the one telling us how to get out of this mess, and that is the key right there. You can have grim surroundings, you can have grim settings or whatever, but if you got a true hero, especially if it's an aspirational hero, the darkness can't seep into them. And this is what people can't handle with Batman. Oh, they can't conceive of a character in that darkness that hasn't let it rot the core of his soul as well, because they don't want to accept that they in their lives should not let the darkness rot their core. I mean, that's life, right? Crap happens to you. Sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes it's tragic. It's horrible. It's life-shaking, the crap that can happen to you in life that sometimes isn't even your fault. Sometimes it's sort of your fault or whatever. And the trick that what you're called to do as a human being trying to rise above and trying to hold on to principles is to not let that darkness seep into your heart and change you. And it takes a lot of strength, a core character. It takes self-denial, and people just aren't willing to do that. And they're offended by stories that show them that that's what they ought to be doing. You ought to be processing this grief and this trauma and not letting it lash out in your life and whatnot. No, that takes work, and I don't want to hear stories that make me think about I might have to do that. So they're just offended by the idea of a Batman who wouldn't let the darkness seep in and rot him, because it's rotted them, and they want stories to tell them that that's okay. It's terrible. It's terrible. Let's see. Did I miss a super chat? Yeah, I did miss a super chat here. But thank you for that comment, Matthew Flynn. Just took me a while to figure out how to answer your question. Hope that I answered it. Studio Super for $9.99. Thank you so much. That I remember watching this documentary on Superman. Whenever they'd have a writing summit, this saying still sticks in my mind: "Leave your ego at the door. Superman is only allowed to have an ego." Oh, I think you mean like ego, like the actual Freudian ego, not like, we would say it when people say, oh, that person got an ego. Yeah, the idea that if you're writing Superman, stop trying to insert yourself into the character. This is one thing that ticks me off. Anytime a woman's going to write Wonder Woman, I mean, I don't read anything remotely from DC Comics anymore, but even, throughout the 90s and into the aughts, certainly, like when Gail Simone took over the run, Gail Simone did some great stuff with Wonder Woman. Absolutely. Really great stuff with Wonder Woman before she totally went psycho lefty nuts. But every now and then, like I picked up a trade paperback, I think it was Jodi Picoult, the woman novelist who wrote a run on Wonder Woman. You'll have some other ones, and they're always talking about, I tried to get her out of the bustier. Oh, can we just stop with a woman? You can't fight crime in a corset, for crying out loud, blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry, you're writing a comic book about a woman with super strength and the ability to fly and all these stuff. Maybe she can handle wearing that costume, plus, but it's just that them trying to bring all of their agendas and try to embody the character with their own agendas and everything. And that doesn't work, Yeah, it's stupid. Yeah. Write the character. Stop writing your fan fiction of the character. Actually write a good story. Oh, that's the saddest thing in the world. Fazocchio, is that if I'm pronouncing your name? Fazocchio Corner said now Tom King is writing Wonder Woman. Why is Tom King even remotely being hired to write a comic book at all? That man needs to be banned from the medium forever. If you're reading Tom King's Wonder Woman, don't talk to me. I don't want to know you. I seriously don't. Why? Why would you do such a thing? Oh. Studio Super says, because of my love of comics that I pursued comic art. How I came to that conclusion. I love drawing and I love comics. Put them together and what do you got? Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing with me in writing. I was started out writing my favorite characters, trying to create my own superheroes and stuff, and yeah, that's how it started. Now you do have to move beyond the fan fiction, right? This is something that a lot of writers don't do. Stepping out of comics for a second, I mean, this is what a lot of us have been pointing out about Dave Filoni. He writes fan fiction. This is not a man who knows how to write a story or tell a good story. He's not a man who knows how to create real characters, real three-dimensional characters with growth and arc and progressions and all of that. He's a fan fiction writer. He's writing Ahsoka, his waifu. And there are people right now, there's two kinds of current, like, Disney Star Wars fans, like watching the Ahsoka series. And I get them occasionally comment on my videos, and it's hilarious. There's the first kind who's starting to see that there's a problem now. But they were the ones that were defending Ahsoka for so long, and Filoni is our guy, and the Clone Wars were great, and blah, blah, blah. They were those guys, but now they're starting to realize after watching Ahsoka that what happened? So they're trying to come up with these narratives that, okay, maybe this happened. I don't know what happened, but now he's not doing it right, guys. But he used to do it great, or Ahsoka used to be a great character. They're trying to like not. They're trying to save face, right? We weren't wrong before, but there's a problem now, which is ridiculous. But then they're the type that still think everything's fine here. You know, they're in the burning building, going, "It's all fine. Everything's good. It's fine." They're still trying to convince themselves that Ahsoka Tano is not a Mary Sue. I can't tell you how many comments I get saying, "No, she's different than Ray because she had to do this, this, and this." But Ray, you know, they still try to think there's some sort of difference between Ahsoka and Ray. They're practically the same character. They are two textbook Mary Sues, and I've heard so many silly. I'm going on a rant here, but I've heard so many silly justifications as, no, a Mary Sue's somebody who does things without any help. And Ahsoka had help. She was given the power of the daughter when she did this and this. No, a Mary Sue is somebody who the entire universe and story just gives all the breaks to, right? And people will say, well, that's just a main character. That's a hero. I mean, by that logic, Luke Skywalker's a Gary Stu. No, he's not. Luke Skywalker had a very specific outlined story, abilities with boundaries, and he remained in those. He didn't best Darth Vader because of his amazing skill. He bested Darth Vader because of his heart, because he refused to believe that his father could totally go to the dark side. He knew there must be some good in him. It was his ability to believe that helped him best Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. Ahsoka, she's got all the wisdom. She's got the heart. She's also got all the skills, and it's okay because in the story, like she learned, you know, she studied. We didn't actually see her study. We didn't actually see her learn any of these things, but you know, it's time jump. It happened. You know, it's fine. So she's not a Mary Sue. She can do all these things, and she's the center of the entire universe. And it's absurd. She's a Mary Sue. She's even worse than a Mary Sue. She's a waifu. She's like fan fiction waifu. Dave Filoni is just, you know, she's his baby. You know, he gets off on writing this character and giving her every break that she can have in the universe and trying to bend and mold and mutate the Star Wars universe as though it all hinges around her. She's the Gandalf of the Star Wars, guys. No, she's not. That's another thing. Stop trying to use all these other stories as a crutch. Stop trying to use Lord of the Rings and all these other great stories as a crutch just because you don't know how to craft a decent story on your own, Dave Filoni. Just write your own story. But anyway, I could go on for ages on that. But I wanted to say that to just respond to some of those ridiculous comments I'm getting, trying to all these mental gymnastics about, oh, she's not a Mary Sue. She's not. They still fall into this narrative that, you know, by liking Ahsoka, we're saying, yeah, take that, Kathleen Kennedy and Rey Skywalker. By supporting Ahsoka, you are in your little leash right next to Kathleen Kennedy's ankle, and she's just stroking your head, going, "That's right, do exactly what I want you to." That's all you are. It's so absurd. All right, backing up on some super chats here. Actually, not too far back. Studio Super said the comics industry, oh heck, what am I saying? The entire entertainment industry needs a Gordon Ramsay to come in and knock sense into these guys. Yeah, I never really watched the Gordon Ramsay cooking shows, but something like that. Yeah, somebody come in and say, "What are you doing, you stupid idiot?" Yeah. Andre, thank you for the super chat there. Says, do you think people misunderstand the difference between aspirational character and Gary Stu? Where does Superman and Luke Skywalker where does Superman and Luke Skywalker succeed where Captain Marvel and Ray fail? Yeah, a lot of people they misunderstand the difference because they don't want to understand the difference. I mean, that's the real truth. They don't want to understand the difference. They don't want to take the time to realize that they might be wrong. A character like Luke Skywalker, I've just said, he's not the most amazing, super powerful ever. Now in the EU, he becomes quite incredibly powerful because you see him, that struggle. And it's years, even beyond Return of the Jedi, that he becomes this super amazing Jedi master, you know, at the Jedi Academy. There's a lot of years and a lot of training still to go on through that. And the stories are told. It's not just a time jump, you know, the stories are there. Superman, how is Superman a Gary Stu? Yes, he's got all that power, but Lex Luthor, a human being with no power at all, is able to put him in situations that tax him, and that you know, it's because of his heart. It's because of his heart. Now, you might say that the ability to turn back time at the end of Superman the movie, and some people have said, "Oh, that's like Gary Stu levels of power." if it wasn't in a different context, I see what you're saying, but that's, a lot of people just don't understand what that meant thematically to the movie. That was him closing out the story arc of, do I choose my, as I've said before, the metaphorical father or the metaphorical mother? Do I choose Kal-El's vision for me, or Jor-El's vision for me, which says, do not interfere with their history. You're above them. I'm not above them. You're there to help them, but you're aside from them. You're outside of human race. Or do you go by Jonathan Kent's example that you're here to help us? You're one of us, and he chooses that he's one of us. He chooses the man over the super. That's a brilliant story. But yeah, a lot of people just don't want to learn the difference between that. Dr. Y, thank you for the super chat there. So the only Star Wars worth anything nowadays is Lego Star Wars sets. Yeah, if you're into Legos, I played through some of the Lego Star Wars video games. They were kind of fun. I tried getting into Lego fan stuff at one time, Lego Star Wars or Lego Superman and stuff like that. And the most I could get into was the video games. I thought they were kind of fun, but I just don't. I mean, I don't like the aesthetic of a Lego as a collector item. I have nothing against Legos; they're fine, But for me, like buying a Lego Death Star or something and putting it together, like I wouldn't want to display that. It's like I see the fun of maybe putting it together or something, but for me, it's just not a just an aesthetic thing, just an aesthetic thing, not a objective truth at all. It's just what appeals to me. But I'd like to know what kind of Lego stuff you got there. Sound Engraver says, yeah, the newly coined term waifu Sue. Yeah, that's Ahsoka. She's worse than a Mary Sue. She's a waifu Sue. That's good. I like that. Final Fantasy fan says Ahsoka is the greatest female protagonist ever. Look at the Tara Branford from Final Fantasy. Oh, no, I don't. Tara. Yeah, Tara. Sound Engraver, I watched her play a bunch of Final Fantasies, and sometimes they all kind of running together in my mind because she was playing them kind of back to back. But Tara, I do remember, I think. Studio Super says, I'd say the difference between aspirational hero and Mary Sue as aspirational hero is competent and is an aspirational hero is competent and is capable. And Mary Sue only has words and preaching. Yeah, they just I mean, people try to say, oh, but Ahsoka, she made mistakes all the time. What are you talking about, Prof? Show me one. Show me a mistake that she made where the story actually made her suffer for it. It never happened. If she makes a mistake, she might feel bad for like a hot second before the whole Star Wars universe comes around her and tells her, get back up on your feet. It's okay, Snips. Believe in yourself. You're strong and you're the butt. No, face some consequences for your actions when you screw up. She could do whatever she wanted, and the universe, the whole Star Wars universe, comes around her to enable her to do what she wants. It was the biggest, I've said before, I still think she could have been saved, or she could have been written well, and perhaps was written well in some scenes or whatever in the old Clone Wars series. But as soon as you get Dave Filoni, the sole writer in charge of her on the Siege of Mandalore, when she shows up with Bo-Katan, she's just like a crazy person. What is she talking about? What is even her motivation? How is she a good guy demanding that Obi-Wan and Anakin divert all of their resources to go do this thing that she wants to do at Mandalore, screw the lives that they need to go save to help the greater Republic? They're playing politics, just do what I want you to do. Shut up and do what I want you to do. I mean, like, where does she even remotely, but the story treats her as this wise one who's been, ousted and mistreated. Now she's returned and everybody falls at her feet. Anakin's like a little lapdog yipping around her ankles. The whole clones, paint their helmets, like, who the heck was she? Who was she? She was a little Padawan. Yes, she fought with them. Of course, they might be happy to see her, but it was just absurd. And people tried their best to defend Siege of Mandalore. Like, it's okay, guys. It's okay. Siege of Mandalore is garbage. And a lot of people are, having difficulty defending that anymore, which is wonderful to see. Luis Sanchez says, how would you define an exceptional hero? Are they any different from anti-heroes? Sorry if it's a dumb question. It's not a dumb question. I'm just trying to understand it. An exceptional hero from an anti... Like, what do you mean by exceptional hero? You don't have to super chat it again if you just want to clarify yourself in the comments section. So an anti-hero is somebody like Punisher or Deadpool, characters who aren't necessarily villains. That's a villain. An anti-hero, can come across as a little more amoral sometimes. No, not amoral, can be more of a villain too. They have their own code, but there's some villainous aspects to it. You know, like Punisher, he's there to punish the wicked, right? To punish the guilty. So he's still going after bad guys. He's not going after anybody innocent, but he's allowing his own trauma, his own emotions to make him judge, jury, and executioner, and he's really punishing people out of his own trauma, more so going beyond what they actually did and what they actually deserve. You know, that's an anti-hero. You know, Deadpool is kind of the opposite spectrum of an anti-hero because he's more of the comedic. And you know, you watch a Deadpool movie, they're not really for me, but I understand the character has a place, and a lot of people like him, and I don't hate the character by any means, but it's more of that, you know, he's not killing innocent people, obviously, but he will, you know, judge, jury, and executioner again. So I don't really know what you mean by exceptional hero as opposed to anti-hero. I mean, like, you mean like aspirational hero? You know, I don't know, but I'll keep looking at the chat there if you want to do a clarification at any point here. Not going to be on for too much longer, guys, because I got some broccoli in the steamer, actually, believe it or not. I need to go get it before it becomes total burnt. But I do like my broccoli mushy. I like the broccoli very mushy. So that's why I figured I'd go ahead and stream, let it take its time. But I'm liking the new place here. I mean, I like the new idea. I like the setup I've got. But like I said, that wall, well, eventually it might be some months before that wall goes back 3 or 4 feet as it needs to. But I'll be changing and playing with the lighting a little bit, and getting some more things set up in here. Got my music, got my system over here, headphones and stuff too. I need to get some better speakers, but it'll happen here. Studio Super said, the folks who write these Mary Sues, I swear, follow Jack Nicholson's advice on how he writes a woman. Oh, from what was that movie called? What was that movie called? I like that movie though. Him and Helen Hunt and Greg Kinnear. I write a man, but remove reason and accountability. That wasn't supposed to be a blueprint. I know that was a throwaway funny line. And what was that movie called? It was good. I remember that. Mike Pine, thank you so much for the super chat. Said, I'm glad someone's talking about this. I hated what they did to Max Steel in the latest iteration. Chat bumped up. Let me go back to your comment. Keep up the good work, Prof. Thank you so much, Mike. I appreciate that. I don't really follow the Max Steel stuff, but it's not just in, like I said, Captain Marvel is a great example because he is literally a boy who becomes a man. And you can see the switch. Throughout history, you can see the switch. He stopped being a boy that kids could imagine they were men through. Now he's a character that men can imagine that they're boys through, and it's really creepy. It's pretty twisted and creepy. Is really what it is. Zimzilla, thank you for the super chat. Filoni cares about 2 things: Ahsoka and wolves. Also, he ruined Mandalorians, and the Mandalorian series was a bandage to the ruination of that culture. The Mandalorian series, I've just never felt so vindicated in my life. That first season came out, I told people what it was. The guys, you got Favreau. It's a good, Western take, and the start of it was fun to watch, but this is not a fix. This isn't going to be, but there's the Civil War and they're going to retcon and no, they didn't. They never were planning to. It was never the plan. The plan was to get you back on board with their content, and it worked. You simps filed in like good little lapdogs. But yeah, I appreciate what you said there. I definitely agree. Andre Hernandez says, how do you write an aspirational character that isn't like us because they're perfect? They can also, or they're not perfect though. That's the thing. They can also can't be flawless because then they wouldn't be one-dimensional or Mary Sue Gary's too. All right, so here's the thing. The aspirational hero is not a perfect character. The aspirational hero can absolutely have flaws, but there are certain lines that the aspirational can never cross. The aspirational hero has to be innately good. That doesn't mean perfect. It means innately good. Like they can never have moments where they wonder, maybe I shouldn't bother doing the right thing. Maybe, I don't know. Is it even possible to do the right thing in this world anymore? Life's so hard. They don't have those moments. They can be, they can be sad. They can screw up. They can make mistakes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Luke was a whiny little, kid when we first met him. you can have flaws as an aspirational hero, absolutely. But again, it's just this writers lack subtlety. It's like writers can't be subtle and write in between, the lines anymore. It's either your total degraded character, or you're one of those two-dimensional, goody two-shoe heroes. Like, I'm sorry, are those the only two options? Can you actually, have a fleshed out character in between? But I'm really glad you asked that question, Andre, because it gave me a chance to really explain myself on there. Yeah, aspirational heroes aren't perfect. They can make mistakes. They can screw up. They can learn. They can work on improving themselves, but they're innately good. Superman has to um, learn how to be, learn how to navigate heroism, learn how to be a hero in terms of the actual heroics, like what to do, this and that. But he's innately good. He always wants to be the hero. He knows that it's good to do the right thing, and he should try and do the right thing. All right, Luis Sanchez in my Google search brought up that he's an exceptional hero, a hero that helps from his own will and still people help you. Yeah, some of the so the Google search you found somewhere saying it was an exceptional hero. The terminology isn't really solidified in this field, Lewis. I was one of the first ones to use aspirational hero, and you hear it out there a lot now. Um, the terminology isn't because this isn't a field that scholars have worked in for a long time. People would rather just look at superheroes and decide how they're unfair to women, or how there's queer theory can be applied, or Marxist theory, or whatever. That's the nature of an academic. But so yeah, maybe exceptional hero is just a term for aspirational hero that I hadn't heard before. Good to know. I'll have to look that up. It's curious. Dr. Y said, if you ever get a chance, look into Lego Bionicle. That was Lego's first real attempt at a story-based series. Lego had comics and Scholastic books. Bionicle, was that the one that was kind of responsible for the Thundercats reboot ending? Did it have like a Lion King or something? I don't know. I've heard the name before. I'll look into it, definitely. Dark Side says, so if you were to give Disney advice on how to fix Star Wars in the MCU, what advice would you give them for people to start enjoying it again? Stop making it and leave it alone for at least 10 years. At least 10 years. Stop. You've muddied the waters so much with it. I said that in a short that I put out some while ago. It's like, I don't even want them to get these franchises right anymore. I just want them to stop. They've saturated the culture with so many bad stories that we need a palate cleanser. And it's sad. We shouldn't need a palate cleanser. People aren't tired of superheroes. That's not the case at all. But we've been so, it's kind of like if like, I love pizza, but if I eat nothing but really crappy, poor quality pizza for a while, I'm just not going to want pizza. I don't want to turn around and get a really good pizza after that. My taste buds I've just been kind of put off pizza for a little while. I need time for my palate to be cleansed for that, Then when I come back, give me a decent pizza, So that'd be the biggest thing. They need to wait. They just need to stop doing what they're doing and give it time, and then come back and do it right. Matthew Flynn said, thanks for the answer. I'm not too interactive. I'm currently painting Warhammer 40K minis. Awesome. Yeah. I should get back into model painting. I used to do some of that. I actually have, you can't see it in the frame, but I've got a really cool model I need to glue together and paint. It's of Wonder Woman fighting, I forget the villain's name. The Cthulhu-like villain that she fought. She's like standing on its head and has got one of his tentacles in her lasso. It's really cool. It's like Golden Age Wonder Woman too. And I've got it in the box still, but I never had space. Now that I've got this closed off office where Alyssa can't get in and like grab the pieces and break them or whatever, I can maybe put that together at some point. Studio Super says, to me, an aspirational character is one of action. He runs while others just walk. He acts while others just talk. They are mission dedicated. Their stories are about accomplishing the mission. That is definitely one. That's a good aspect. That's definitely one aspect. Starro. Yeah, thank you. It is Starro, Final Fantasy fan. I knew the name of it, but couldn't think of it. But yeah, that isn't, they're going to, when they know something needs to be done, they're going to go do it. This is a great example, Andre, if you're still around, talking about how aspirational heroes don't need to be perfect. Naruto is an aspirational hero, but he's an aspirational trickster. Superman is the aspirational paragon, Which in the Paragon character is a little different. Is a little bit more. He's still not perfect, but people could be a little bit more tempted to think of a Paragon character as just perfect without flaws. That's not true. They can have flaws, but a Paragon is going to be more seemingly perfect. But aspirational heroes can be other sub archetypes. Naruto is a great example of an aspirational trickster. Is silly and just let's just be frank and say it, as dumbass as Naruto can be sometimes, he never doubts that there's a right thing to do. And it's all, what's his ninja way? His ninja way, his will of fire, it's all, he always needs to stand up for his friends. He always needs to help people in need. He always needs to do the right thing. That's unshakable. You can't shake that from his character. Yet he's a trickster, So yeah. Like I said, gonna wrap up here in a second. Eldritch fan said, just checked in. What I missed? Sorry, Eldritch fan. Actually, just kind of wrapping up. We talked about some good things, I think. It's getting close to the hour mark, sort of ish. Divinital Kayan said, how is your daughter handling the changes? Does she get to be the flower girl? Good question. Alyssa definitely hates change. Hates change. She's getting to the point now where every time she comes back to my house, there's something has changed. So she talks about it a lot and she demands that we fix it. And I say, okay, we'll fix that later. And it's kind of okay. But yeah, she hates change. Glad you mentioned that. Or that's a good point to bring up. But she's handling it really well. She's doing well. She's not going to be a flower girl just because she couldn't. It depends on her mood, whatnot. She's not as structured to be able to understand. Okay, you need to walk down this aisle and throw these petals and then go stand over there and be quiet. No, Melissa's not capable of doing that. So she's going to be in it. We got her pretty dress that's getting altered. She's a pretty sweet little dress that we got her that matches Sound Engraver's Maid of Honor's dress. But she'll be in the pictures with us and stuff like that. But she's not going to be part of the actual ceremony just because don't want to put her through that stress. Don't want to put all of us through that stress too. Just let her enjoy herself there. And she will. She'll have her cousins there to play with. She'll be having a blast. So, Darkside said, "Thanks for the answer. If they do stop for a while, do you think they should reboot the MCU and Star Wars?" I mean, I would love to see. Here's what I would love. It'll never happen, but I would love to see. And it might have to do this through an animated universe from now on. I don't know. But I would love to see a different ending, a different Endgame. Endgame is where they really dropped the ball. And Captain Marvel, of course, before that. But it all fell to crap at Endgame. Endgame was like the writers just decided not to try anymore. Or maybe they had too many, spoons in the pot or something. I don't know. And they just couldn't fully develop everything, so they just dropped and just pretended that these character progressions they'd been working on weren't a thing anymore, and let's just turn our back on this stuff that we started to develop. Let's just do this something different. It's just Endgame was the problem. So write a different Endgame movie, a different ending to that saga after Infinity War, or just start of the universe in which Thor did kill Thanos when he throws the Stormbringer at him and hits him in the heart, and Thanos is dying, but he says, "You should have aimed for the head," and snaps his fingers on his way to dying. And of course, that redoes everything, So yeah, let him actually kill Thanos in the head or something at that point, and move on from there or something. I don't know. For Star Wars, just do the EU. Just completely ignore everything that Disney has put out, and I mean everything, even Rogue One, because that's not how those plans were obtained. That even that story has some logical weirdness in it. Start adapting the EU well. Now, I don't trust them to be able to do it. I don't even know in 10 years if they'd be able to do it in the current nature of Hollywood's culture. But that was what I would like to see, Start with the Thrawn trilogy, the real Thrawn trilogy. But again, Dave Filoni's already just taken all of these ideas from the EU and just bastardized them and made people think, it's really funny. What was, I saw this meme that was so clever. I can't remember the details of it. Oh, it started out Thrawn from the EU, and it had a picture of like the multi-layered chessboard from like Star Trek. And then it had Thrawn from Timothy Zahn's like redo of Thrawn in the Disney continuity, and it had a regular chessboard. Then it had Thrawn from Rebels, and it was a checkerboard. And then it was Thrawn from Ahsoka, and it was a tic-tac-toe board. I was like, Well done. This brilliant, strategic mind and way to just like dumb him down to vanilla ice cream there, Filoni. Good job. All right. So I think I'm going to wrap it up there and call it a stream because I do want to get to my broccoli before it totally burns. But I've got a slow steamer. It slows, takes a while, but get that and get some dinner. So I'll wrap this, wrap this on up. But thank you guys for hanging out. Do appreciate it. Ghost Planet, everybody coming out. Do a super for one more super chest. And just to give you some imagery, Gordon Ramsay, Dan Slott, that's not how you write a character, you bleeping donkey. Yeah. Yeah. It'd be nice. It'd be nice. So yeah, really appreciate it, guys. I'll be back with either cutouts of this video or some standalone videos and content-wise, video-wise throughout the week. But I will come back for a stream next Monday night. So no Saturday night stream next Monday, but a Monday night, or next Saturday, but a Monday night stream coming back for that. And that'll be the last stream before the wedding. So exciting stuff. Thank you guys for all the well wishes. Do appreciate it. We'll share some pictures of the wedding and stuff. We'll let you guys in on it a little bit. But great talking with you guys. Really appreciate it. Sound Engraver is going to be streaming tomorrow. I think she said 5:45 p.m. You can check her out there and ask her how big her studio is. Now that you've seen my little nook of an office. No, it's going to be bigger, and I'm very happy with the space I have now. So that's it, folks. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love.